Hello everybody and welcome back inside the box for another episode of Gunpla Kitbash with me, Kukamatsu. In this episode we're painting the inner frame and trying painting chrome for the very first time. So, let's jump right in. Okay, it is the penultimate episode of the series, and we have just one last thing to do, which is to paint all of the metal parts. There's going to be two things needed to be done. The inner frame parts I'm going to do in my traditional dry brush metal painting technique. I'll put a little link in the corner for you. If you haven't seen that, I will do a quick and easy recap of that process in this video. But if you want a more detailed version, check that one out. The second thing we have to do are the chrome parts. Quite a number of little chrome parts on this kit that I want to do, and I've never done chrome before, so most of this video is going to be about discovering that. We'll get to that in a moment, but first we'll start with the inner frame. Step 1. Prime the parts with Tamiya Acrylic NATO Black XF69. Step 2. Hand paint lightly with Gunmetal X10. Step 3. Dry brush with flat aluminum XF16. Step 4. Seal with clear X22. There we go, easy as that. Inner frame painting is complete. Time to move on to the chrome. Okay, it's time to do the part I've never done before, which is chrome. I'm kind of excited but nervous about doing this just because I've never done it before, and chrome is sort of notoriously the more difficult thing to get right. I have done a little bit of research about how to approach this. One of my regular viewers, Soy Wakandiano, suggested this stuff as a great way to get chrome. Unfortunately, I could only find aluminum and silver. I couldn't find a chrome one. So I did some tests with it and got some nice results for aluminum and silver, but not for a shiny chrome. So if anybody out there knows how to use this stuff for chrome, I would love to hear about it. It's it's a wax-based material, and you can polish and stuff like that. And like I said, I got good results with the aluminum and silver, but would love to try that with chrome if anybody knows where to find that. Since I couldn't find that, what I'm going to use instead is this, which is Extreme Metal by AK477 Chrome. And to get a good result from that, you need a shiny black undercoat. So I'm going to use this Mr. Color 2 primary black. To get it to be really shiny, you have to spray it on as a wet coat, which is very different from what I normally do. Normally with the Tamiya paints, I am doing what I would consider like dry airbrushing. It dries almost instantly as it hits the surface, so it's not flowing around. To get the shiny result, you do need it to flow around. So I'm going to be thinning this with this Mr. Color leveling thinner, and I'm going to be doing that about 50-50 with the paint. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray it on thicker than I normally would and let it flow around a little bit and get that shiny result. I do want to mention at this point, longtime supporter of the channel, Timothy Mary, asked the question last week about whether I use a respirator or if I have a spray booth or anything like that. With acrylic paints, do I not worry about it? I did want to address that more directly and more in depth. I mean, the first thing is the Tamiya acrylics are not pure acrylics. They're a lacquer-based acrylic, so that you still have that aspect of it. But even if I was just using an acrylic, I would definitely be wearing a respirator. Anytime I use the airbrush, I'm using a respirator. You know, acrylic paints may be safe to get on your skin or whatever else, but when you vaporize anything like that and breathe it in, you're playing with fire, and I'd rather not take that risk. So absolutely, I'm wearing a respirator during the airbrush stuff. Unfortunately, I don't have a spray booth, but I do have a very well ventilated apartment, so I open up all the windows and put on the respirator when I'm painting. That is going to be even more critical with this stuff. I mean, the smell, even just when you open the jar, is much more than the Tamiya paints, and it'll also have an effect on how I clean up because I'll be using more chemically stuff for cleaning up. So I'm going to be wearing the respirator for the whole thing. I work as a 3D modeler now, but I used to work in special effects shops. Have done that, did that for many years, and actually one of the reasons I became a 3D modeler was because I wanted to get away from the toxic smell of everything. When you're in a shop like that, you're kind of more at the whim of the person who is the least careful with chemicals and toxic things. The nice thing about doing model making at home, you are able to control it a little bit more, and I am very careful that I'm not breathing in any of this stuff, and I really encourage you to do the same. So with that all being said, I'm going to get going with the chrome experiment here. I have I've done the prime of all the parts with the XF69 acrylic from Tamiya that I did with the inner frame. Now I'm going to do the first wet coat with the Mr. Color. There we go. Yep, very smelly stuff. Not very pleasant. I do know why now. I stick to the Tamiya most of the time, because as soon as you open the jar, that stuff just absolutely stinks. But it has given me this very nice shiny black result. Hopefully you can see that on camera. You saw that I did that. I just basically put on paint until it looked a little bit shiny, and then I didn't want to go overboard. You don't want it to pool or anything like that, or be too much paint on there, but you definitely do need to get a little bit more on there than normal to make sure that it's going to get that self-leveling effect and the shiny result. So next I'm going to put some of the Chrome Extreme Metal in the airbrush, and then go over top of this stuff. And the result there is looking pretty amazing. I'm very, very happy with that. All of these parts are looking very much like chrome. All of these parts are small detailed parts, but I was curious to know how the paint would react on a much larger panel surface, and so there you go. That is my test piece, and very, very, very nice result on there for sure. I'm quite impressed with that. That process was actually a lot easier than I thought to get a nice chrome result there. I'm really looking forward to seeing this together on the kit. That is the last bit of painting we had to do on this project, and it's all done but the assembly and then the final reveal, which will be next week. Thank you very much for watching. That is the end of this week's episode. Please consider supporting the channel by giving me a like on your way out, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.